All right, so this is the Drupal core cross initiatives meeting for January 24th, 2019. And we have a bunch of folks on the call. And what I did last week is we started in the order of how people appeared on the call. So let's start with David.
Hi. Right now we are working on prepping the material between Mike Banton, Peter Wolanin, and me for the DrupalCon presentation in Seattle. We're just trying to figure out what we'll be emphasizing in the presentation and collecting data on the ongoing work on the project. But I don't have a lot other to update on that than just that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything specific that we can help with to get into 8.7?
I haven't noticed anything since I'm working more on the kind of long view planning around the composer-based update frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than the near-term stuff in terms of what we actually want to land in the next, say, year or so with Drupal 7 and 8, then I don't think we need a lot from upstream right now, or not. Well, I guess we are upstream, but I don't think we need a lot from other parts of core, because a lot of the stuff we're doing for this initial early update stuff, at least on a systemic basis, is designed to be not that intrusive. As opposed to comparing with like the composer-based designs that I've worked on, where there are couplings or at least dependencies between adopting certain approaches in core and the ability to actually run the sort of update tool that I've been prototyping. Whereas in terms of the update tools that sorry, Mike is working on, they're based on a little bit more of an in-place kind of file replacement and not based on any sort of cooperation with the build and framework tools of the project itself.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I'm just getting over something. But one thing that I mean, if there's anything else that we're looking at through core is stuff like updating some of the status report tools, how we collect data on what exact releases people are on, so we know where people are at, which will help inform some of our future approaches. So if there's anything that would be nice to get landed, it would probably be some of the things around the update status tool, in terms of if we got work done around say having it report the version of Drupal in the user agent when it requests update data, and we collected and aggregated that.
Mm-hmm. I think that Ryan has some of that data at the DA.
Okay.
At least for Drupal 8.
We should, I mean, it's not exciting, but we should probably do it for Drupal 7 too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Drupal 8 benefit, so the benefit with Drupal 8 is that it uses Guzzle, and Guzzle reports back a lot of stuff from the server environment in the user agent info. So that's how we have, for example, PHP version information from people running Drupal 8 and running update status to report, to look for version info. So there's a lot more info to dig there, but there's certainly some info on Drupal 7 as well, probably not as granular.
Okay.
So did I understand that you are working on two different tools or two different paths, and both of them will make sense, or one of them is going to come out winner at the end, or how should that be imagined?
The idea is that there's a lot of value in getting something out quickly with this.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. There's a lot of value in getting out something quickly for this. And we want to also ensure that we don't make kind kind of great the enemy of the good,
Mm-hmm.
or perfect the enemy of the good. And we also have European Commission funding to get tangible results out of this project.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we're trying, like, the smaller scope in terms of, say, updating files in place for core is designed to achieve a milestone of supporting core updates, and not necessarily, and there's not really any plan or actual means of extending the approach for the initial thing to support, say, module updates, at least in an automated fashion for Drupal 8 sites, or at least for modules that have things like, say, composer dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that one solution will win. It's that one solution meets core where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
And one solution is really designed to meet core where it will be maybe toward the end of 2019, in terms of integrating more with the composer approaches to building and maintaining projects.
Okay, but that requires structural changes in how Drupal is packaged. It would be more like actually included in Drupal 9.
Yes. The approaches that I'm working on are based on basically maintaining a sort of A/B switch for a composer-based build.
Mm-hmm.
That's freshened on the build that's not active by the project.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's a nice approach, but a lot of the problem is that there are a lot of approaches in Drupal 8, let alone Drupal 7, that that take different philosophies toward how these builds work, in the sense that we have sort of the traditional Drupal core as a tarball and modules as tarballs extracted. We have concepts of modules that now have composer dependencies that actually want to pull in things in order to be able to operate properly. So really what we're trying to do is this initial thing we want to ship will do the job of being able to update core for D7 and D8.
Mm-hmm.
And since we have such a widespread D7 deployment, it's important that we have something that addresses some of the languishing updates on sites deployed with Drupal 7 as well, at least in terms of getting broad coverage and efficacy. So it's certainly not a competition between the approaches. If everything, like crossing my fingers, comes together, like for all of the projects in the upcoming several years, then what we will end up with is a lightweight and effective update mechanism for core in Drupal 7. And then we would probably replace that updater in Drupal 8 with one that was actually more composer aware and wise. And we would leave the basic updater in Drupal 7, and Drupal 8 would continue marching forward with the more advanced one. And when I say Drupal 8, I mean it might be Drupal 9. It depends on a lot of things changing in various aspects of the project, because once you start doing composer style building of projects, everything needs to think about composer, and the structure of the project needs to follow generally more of the conventions of it. And we need to answer questions, at least in the long term, about how we publish and maintain media assets, in the sense of traditionally we've just extracted everything for Drupal into a web root, and there's been no distinction between the code the code running the site and the sort of public HTML or web root that is actually offering things up to the public. And we've kind of tried to play some games around this with htaccess files and other rules in order to prevent arbitrary access to code files that are deployed there. But the direction that projects are going in the native composer way is to deploy the code above the web root, and to explicitly publish static assets into a web root as part of a deployment or build process. So there's a lot of impedance with some of the native composer world in terms of even where Drupal 8 will get once we are able to do composer create project with it, which is still a major step forward and in the right direction. I don't want to take too much of the time though. So if you have any other questions about that, or other people do, or anything that we could be doing maybe, or things we could be taking into account, I'd be happy to talk about that too.
Yeah, mainly I was wondering if it requires structural changes of how Drupal core is developed and shipped, etc. Then it would likely need to require being done with Drupal 9, or if it's not done in time for Drupal 9, then Drupal 10, right? Due to the backwards compatibility requirements that we have for core. So putting that discussion front and center in Seattle, at least not necessarily part of your session, but at least as part of a hard problems conversation or something, would be important to be able to do the necessary changes in core in time if it's to be done for Drupal 9, I think.
Yeah, we are actually, that would be probably a neat topic to cover, and since we're developing the presentation stuff, that's probably a good thing for me to look at, because ultimately I'd love for the composer-based updates to dovetail into the efforts of what's happening as part of the Drupal project in general, in the sense that I'd like for it to be a non-disruptive sort of add-on that is able to juggle things the way that the project has evolved to juggle them, in terms of the everything from the code to the static assets. Yeah, at least in terms of the near-term work, we're trying to do almost everything around the idea of not actually requiring changes on the core side or on the way that most people are working with Drupal.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, made those notes. Thank you. Any questions from others? If not, then I believe Adam was next.
Okay. Well, the story with media currently is that Sean B is working tirelessly on fixing media library stuff and trying to get that to where it needs to be for 8.7. He has been writing much more code than I have had the chance to review, so that's sort of the procedural issue we're having right now. But we're not too. We're actually pretty close to getting vertical tabs done for the media library UI. The code looks about as good as it's going to there. Although Lowry reviewed it and found some CSS things that he wants us to change. So we're going to look into that. There are a couple of issues. They found a bug related to file uploads, which is now RTBC, and that could use committer look. There's also another one that's I believe a must-have for media library, which is also RTBC now by Wim. And we also, I'm not 100% sure how valid this one is, but the issue that's been open forever to improve the look and feel of normal file fields and make them more draggable is now RTBC. So I can send all of those issues to people in Slack if you want it. One thing I specifically want to ask for from the product managers is to take a look at this issue right here. That is a thing that's a secondary blocker for media library, because it is this is the foundation patch that will allow us to have a thing in the media library where you can toggle between grid view and table view. So what we're doing here is we're trying to add to views a new area plugin, which just lets you create a link to another display of the same view. And we had it pretty much good to go, and then DWW showed up and made some very good points about sort of how we're determining what other displays within the same view you're allowed to link to. And that's more towards the end of the thread right now. So I've tagged the product managers in for this because what I want to know is, should we land it as is, where we're sort of trying to limit which displays you're allowed to link to, or should we just do what DWW suggests, which is to allow people to link to more or less any display as long as it has a path. And if that results in people getting slightly different results per display due to different filter settings or different pager settings, if that's okay. So that's kind of a big question that I think we need to resolve before we can proceed with this one. And so I need product manager feedback there. But that would, once that lands, we can very easily add a toggle between grid view and table view to the media library. And that would be, I believe that's an accessibility gate thing that we have. Not sure if it's a must-have or a should-have, but I know it's important. It's been around since since the original iteration of the media library in Drupal 8.6. So that's kind of where we're at. We have a bunch of things to review, trying to push forward there, and the eternal situation of being blocked on review is kind of what's going on. Any questions?
So what happens here is it basically Ajax reloads the display, or
it's not specifically Ajax. It's not a specifically Ajax thing. It's basically just creating a normal link over to the other display. So it only lets you link to displays that have a path. So that would be like another page or something like that.
I mean, my general feedback there is views does very, very little to prevent you from shooting yourself in the foot in any other place. So it's a little bit odd to have guardrails here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true. Views gives you a bazooka.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a flame-throwing bazooka full of radioactive slime. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah.
I can imagine... And the worst-case scenario here is a user... say somebody had both a table view and a list view or something of products. And the list view, they added a filter to only show ones from this year. So the worst case scenario would be that a user would be slightly confused on one particular site if a site builder made the decision to link to a display with different filters.
There is also the possibility of, like, if there are exposed filters, there's a certain amount of form validation that happens. So if on one display of the view you have, you've exposed filters, you've got selected some values that are not allowed on the display you're linking to, then you may click to the other display and get validation errors. Where it's like, you've selected it. It would be like illegal choice detected, which would be scary and weird. So, I mean, there's value in validating it and in not validating it, and that's why this is so tricky. So, I mean, to be clear, if we remove the guardrails, then the patch gets a lot lighter, a lot simpler. Site builders will probably like that, but then support requests may come in where it's like, oh, I clicked to the other thing and I got this weird validation thing, and then we have to be like, well, your view's not the same. Having said that, though, one thing we are definitely going to include in this patch either way is when you add a link like this, there will be some text at the top of the little form to configure the area that explains sort of what you're doing, linking to it. And we could mention that, like, if you don't have the same sort criteria and filters and stuff, then you might get validation errors or you might get different results. So we could at least document it in the UI, and we will.
Yeah, I think documenting is one step. If we can detect when that situation has happened and show like a little yellow warning in the area, that's even better. Like, I feel like Views does that for something.
I mean, we're already detecting
node view and you don't have the published flag in there as a filter or something, it will say, hey, you're going to about to do something dumb. If we could flag it like that, that might be useful, but not letting people do that would be an odd behavior for Views to do. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So yeah, would you be willing to comment on the issue and just say I think that'll break the tie. I think that'll make everybody happy, actually.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Thank you for herding the cats. Yeah, I think that's all we need at the moment.
Yay! That's why I like this meeting. So I also looked at the RTBC issues, and I'm over the moon to see the file field design update RTBC. That's like, oh, magic.
Cool. Magic.
Yeah, that's a lot of magic. Great. That would be amazing for 8.7 for sure. Cool. So I think Fabian was next.
Could be. Hello. So we had a meeting yesterday that was quite productive. As in, we discussed several issues. Alex Pott found a nice issue that's about the documentation and essentially the page that you get when you view the diff of the configuration that you're about to import. And it's about like wording and explaining what the active and stage means. And we decided that actually we can just probably be better off without any labels because it's a diff, and like you came there because you clicked like view diff, and like in the context of what you're importing, it should be clear. And if like maybe we need better documentation on how to read a diff, but like the labels themselves are not very useful. That's also interesting because we are planning to reuse this UI for the environments module that we're designing. And we still have hopes to get it into 8.7 as an experimental module or like very early things, because there's a lot of like edge cases and things that we have to find out how they should behave, and like what use cases we want to support. But I think that will be like a discussion for the next DrupalCon. And other than that, yeah, we're like getting back on track, I hope, like working on some patches again soon.
So if you hope to land the experimental module in 8.7, that would need to get in by mid-March.
Yes.
So that's like 1, 2,
well,
4, 5,
probably
7 weeks from now.
Yeah, so it's a very optimistic hope, let's say. But,
yeah, I just wanted to like.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like the DrupalCon will be between the beta and RC release, I believe.
Yes, I think
so. Getting in the module at that time would be too late.
Yes. No, the plan is to have like a very basic experimental module that people can already like test out, like without like a big UI or anything. So that we can start like a conversation on something that exists already.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, I mean, if we block ourselves, like we want to get it as done as possible, then we like run into too much trouble of like bike shedding opportunities, and but without anything to play with, that all the discussions are very hypothetical. So yeah, there's still a lot of work ahead to be reviewed and patches reapplied and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some other issues that like were split off that are back to RTBC, I think. So
is calling does promoting the initiative again help getting more people in, or?
So we didn't decide, but we thought that it would be good to have more visibility. So we will probably have some of the next meetings on Slack only. So we type, and we're all very active in the channel. And then have like a hangout again, like less regularly. So because the hangout is kind of like less visible, and it's like an attempt or an idea for reaching more people, or since it's out there, it's easier to interact with. So if you think that's a very bad idea and we should stick to Hangouts, then that's also a good feedback. But
no, that's fine.
If you think it would be helpful for more people to at least listen into the conversation, then I think that's something we should try.
Yeah, I think chat is good too. If you put it in the contribute channel, then people see that's going on and will start to engage and wonder what's going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like putting it to more visibility, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, made note of that as well. And if there's any other issues we can help with, even providing UI feedback on the issue that Alex found, we are happy to do that. Just press the link along.
Yeah, I can try to find it. Okay, I'll post it on Slack.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I don't know if Mike or Andre was next. Do you know? If not, then I will pick Andre. It's first on my screen.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah.
Oh, thanks. Great. That's because I'm on my phone and I never know if this works or not. Okay, so it's been a while since I was able to join the meeting. I think I'll just start with a quick recap summary with the 4 major goals of the initiative for 8.7. The first one, conversion of various entity types to revisionable. That's going very well. The main patch which enables this conversion was RTBC at some point, but now it's blocked on a PostgreSQL issue. That one is also very close. So on this front, I think we're good. The expectation is still to have at least terms and menu links converted to revisionable in 8.7. The second part, if I remember correctly, was converting path aliases to entities. That work received a lot of reviews, but that was mainly last year. And right now we're waiting for a subsystem maintainer review from Sasha Bardir. I'm not sure if there's something that core committers could help there. Yeah, we just need to wait for Sasha's review. And the third part was revision parents and the revision tree work. That also progressed a lot, mainly this month, in the past couple of weeks. And it's tied together with the last part, which was conflict management. And for this, I think we need a discussion with product managers and framework managers to settle on the product level expectations for this feature. There are some arguments, and I have drafted a plan together with Francesco Placella and Philippe Melab. But yeah, I think a bigger discussion is needed with the stakeholders.
What issue is this where this thing is posted that we can take a look at?
There are many issues. I will post them in Slack because, like I said, Hangouts is on my phone and I cannot use the chat. Okay, let's see. So one of the issues is this one, phase H from the workflow initiative.
Okay, right.
Okay, and the other I think was phase B. Let me try to find it.
Because what I remember the last time the committers talked about this, like H is a full-blown, like, let's basically reinvent Git on top of Drupal revisions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds awesome, but what Catch in particular was pushing against is like, hey, to get this thing stable, can we just go for conflict detection and that's it? You know, and then conflict, full-blown merge conflict, you know, this kind of stuff. That could be a feature, I guess. Whether it's a core feature or not is also something we should discuss. But that would be a feature for after workspaces stabilizes, and we could
Right.
add it as a further enhancement. So it's kind of, we can have that discussion if we want to, but it feels like that discussion is at least a year off, like where we would be in a position where, oh, workspaces is now stable and we're looking for other things to do, so we're going to do this crazy conflict resolution situation. Because I think all the release managers really want to see is this feature stable, because like we've got what, like another release, we've got 8.7 and I think we've got 8.8, and then that might be it for Drupal 8, you know, because we got to get on getting Drupal 9 out the door, and anything that's not stable at the point we, you know, do that fork in the road, so to speak, it leaves people in kind of a scary state if they're like on an experimental module in Drupal 8 and trying to move to Drupal 9, what happens, that kind of stuff. So we really are trying to like clean up and finish anything that we have on the go in Drupal 8 by 8.8 if at all possible.
Yes.
And
So
that's
this
not done would be a Drupal 9 feature.
Yeah. So this is exactly the plan that Plach and I are proposing.
Cool.
Do conflict detection and provide the API for conflict resolution, but do not implement it in core yet.
Yep, that sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, I sent you a link directly to Francesco's comment about this.
Great. Sorry, I was yakking and not paying attention.
Yeah, no worries. And,
oh, look at that. It has a flow chart and everything. Wow, fancy.
Yeah, it helps a lot to visualize things.
So this is 2867707 for the recording.
Yeah, and the part where I think the discussion is needed, because Hristo Chanov argues for some other features than what we are proposing here. So we're trying to, reconcile our points of views.
Yeah, it looks like there's some squabbling happening here.
Yeah. Anyway, so the contention point, I think, is this one, the conflict management, and also about revision trees.
Yep.
And those two discussions, like I said, maybe we should have them with framework and product managers.
So what would be helpful? Like, do we want to set up a call with the workflow team and some product management and some framework manager kind of people?
Yes, that would be very helpful, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, look if there's a core committer meeting soon enough, but it's unfortunately in 2 weeks, so probably not soon enough. And it's also a very late time, 2 weeks from now at 11 p.m. Central European.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be super awesome.
For me, it's not a problem, but yeah. Other.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try sending out a doodle for next week and see if we can get some people aligned there. And then could you help me out by writing up like a paragraph or something that's like, this is the agenda and what we want to get out of this meeting?
Yes.
That would help a lot. And then I can handle the logistics of sending around annoying calendar reminders to people.
Yeah, I can do that after the call.
Okay, wicked, thanks.
Okay, and oh, I forgot what I wanted to say. Oh, maybe in the same meeting, we can also discuss, since there will be product managers there, we could also discuss what exactly is seen as a stable workspaces module. I mean, what would be the blockers for having it stable?
Yeah, we might need to do some work before this meeting to try and figure that, because I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with that in an hour on the cuff. So, but anyway, let's think up after when you get back online and and try and figure that out, because that's a lot to cram into one meeting, I think.
Yes, yeah, I know. But it's equally important, because I have I have some things in mind that I think are required for it to be stable, but product managers might have something else in mind for it.
Right.
That could be more or less than my list of issues.
Yeah, I think let's maybe do this. Let's start a Google Doc with what you know are the must-have issues, or what you think are the must-have issues, and start with that. And then the call, having a demo of what currently is there, like this is what we've got with all the patches that are still in flight and everything, and this is what it's going to look like. And then we can probably do the review from that perspective to find out how close or far away we are from that, like that plus your list of issues that are still outstanding. You know what I mean? Because product management is going to care a lot about the behavior and the end user experience. Versus framework managers are going to be much more focused on, are the APIs complete? Are we going to need to break BC in order to get any of these other features in? Do we have enough flexibility? Are we factoring in things like REST? Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like those are the kinds of things that they're going to want to know, which is separate.
Yeah. When you do the doodle, can you please include Francesco, because he's very familiar with all these issues and this plan.
Yeah,
he might even
be about it now. So let's quickly do this. Who's coming to this call? So Plaque, you, Tim, probably.
Nat. He's also very familiar with workspaces.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is about the call about stabilizing workspaces, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like this is.
Okay. Yeah. Then I think that's it.
All right. And then either Gabor or myself, or both. I could also send out a general thing. Nat being on the call would be really great, though, because he's both a framework and a release manager, so we get both of those boxes ticked, too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
And also very familiar with everything that we've been doing here.
Sure. Okay, I will get on that now.
Okay, and for me, I was about to write a short paragraph about this and start a Google Doc with what I think we should discuss.
Yeah, this is a starting point. Like, we'll edit it as we're having the meeting, like to add more things or delete things or move things around. But I think having a Google Doc as a starting point with like, this is what the workspaces team thinks is left to stability, would be a helpful starting point, because we can look at that in advance of the meeting and leave comments and stuff like that, so that when we get to the meeting, we're like, we've already had kind of a pre-discussion, and then we can make the best use of the hour or whatever. So.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. And then Michael.
Hey, thanks, Gabor. Nothing really much new this week, same as last week. Migration system is focused on getting the multilingual stuff stable for 8.7. And then the focus will be on deprecating the Drupal 6 sources and a few other cleanup things that we want to get done before Drupal 9 to get into 8.8 in the winter. So right now it's just all multilingual. Goal is really to get that stable. We're still planning sprinting around migrate at Drupal mid-camp in March, which like I mentioned last week is going to be right after the alpha for 8.7 comes out, but we're expecting the issues that we work on there will still be able to get into 8.7 in the beta phase. So we think we'll be all right with that.
Yeah, as long as it's for the multilingual module, certainly an experimental module, so it should be able to receive improvements. I don't know what else you're planning to work on, but
that's the multilingual module is the big push right now. Just getting all of those the multilingual bugs out so that can be stable, because we really wanted to get that module stable before we deprecated all the Drupal 6 stuff and moved it out to contrib. You know, we wanted at least to have it stabilized in core, and that was just going to make it cleaner to break off the Drupal 6 stuff for 8.8.
Yeah, sure. All right, any specific things we can help with?
We're doing Vicky is doing her best on the multilingual patches. We're writing them, so just when they're ready to get reviewed and committed, just it's nice to get them in there quick, because a lot of times she has to re-roll the fixture in between them. So when we get one done, if we can get it committed as soon as we're good on it, then makes it faster. We can move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. But I don't have any in the queue right now that need to be committed. So
sure, I will try to keep an eye, but feel free to ping me. Just in case. Okay. I can report for Drupal 9. So now there's less than 500 days before Drupal 9, which I count. This was like last Saturday was 500 days before Drupal 9, according to my count. So we're getting quite close. What we are focusing on right now is working on deprecations. So Lee Rollins started in office hours every Thursday, 9 a.m. GMT, or UTC, 9 a.m. UTC, to talk about deprecations with whoever shows up. And today, a few people showed up, and we talked about specific. So there's a push to unify deprecation coding standards for core and contrib, because those are not yet unified. And once we have that unified, we can go forward with building tooling around them on api.drupal.org, on the testbot, and possibly as a module that you can collect your own deprecation info on your site, so you have a better idea of what are you up against in terms of to do to update your code. So that's a general deprecations formats and tools. And we've been also working on Symfony 4 compatibility. So Catch has an issue to explore. I will post a link here because that's kind of useful. So that's 2976394 to investigate problems with Symfony 4 now. And we have an ongoing patch that makes Drupal 8 run on Symfony 4, and that obviously fails a lot. And then we look at the failures, and then we open issues for the failures, which are deprecations. And then for each of them, we try to see if we can fix it in a way that works with Symfony 3 and 4 at the same time. And we've uncovered a bunch of stuff yesterday and already got some of them committed today. So we are making steady progress. But it's you never know when it ends. So there's also issues that are deprecated within Symfony 4 with removal in Symfony 5. And these also turn up those issues. And for those, we also look at whether we can make it compatible. So we are, in fact, already making Drupal 8 in part Symfony 5 compatible with all the things that are already deprecated in Symfony 4, the version that we are testing with. So that's a good issue to follow, 2976394. And then we link to all the issues that we break out of there for specific changes. So that's going on quite well. And then we have a Drupal 9 meeting every other Monday. So the next one is going to be February 4th, where we discuss all the other questions about Drupal 9. And it's also kind of important, so that's why I was trying to push people to make big discussions in Seattle, because Seattle is going to be the last United States DrupalCon before Drupal 9, if everything aligns well, if our current target date for Drupal 9 works out, because the next DrupalCon will be like 2 or 3 weeks before Drupal 9's release date. So it will be very, very, very late to do anything. Unless, of course, we screw up a lot of things, and then we'll need to delay the Drupal 9 release date. But hopefully that's not going to be the case based on progress so far. So whatever needs to be discussed with a lot of people in the US would need to be done ideally in Seattle in person. So let's try to line up our discussions there. So I will definitely, later on, sometime in February, I will reach out to people and ask about topic suggestions for Seattle meetings. And that's it for Drupal 9, I guess. Any other questions or things that we can help with, or questions for each other that you have not raised yet?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, for me too.
All right. In that case, we'll try our best to deliver on all the promises we made in the meeting, organizing and unblocking, and feel free to ping us anytime we can help. See you next time.
All right, cheerio.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.